When I was in high school, my friends and I all wanted to work part-time. Aside from the money, I suppose we regarded it as an opportunity to feel more mature. We were just 16 years old at the time, and it was difficult to get a job because children that age were considered reckless. Fortunately for me, I had an interview at a 7-Eleven near the school and got the job, making me the first of our group to begin working. My shifts always started after school and ended at 9 p.m. when the night crew arrived. We worked in groups of 2. My co-worker Anru was only a year or 2 older than me and was responsible for training me. After a few weeks of working together, I discovered that Anru was a bit of a slacker. He would disappear for hours at a time while we were supposed to be at work. I didn't say anything because I was the new man and didn't want to cause any trouble. That, and Andrew was extremely easy back, so I didn't want to wind up with someone stricter. It was a Tuesday evening, and Andrew had taken off as usual to visit a girl or something. That was okay with me because it was a slow night with not much work to accomplish. A few customers came in throughout my shift, but there were extended intervals when I was the only one there. It had been approximately an hour since anyone had entered the business when I began to hear noises in the back area. There is a room in the back of the store where we keep boxes of additional stock. The employee restroom is back there, along with an exit. At first, I assumed the structure was infested with rats, but as I continued to listen, it seemed far too large. I resolved to return there to relieve my fears. I went to the door and opened it. That was when I noticed a man's head peeping out from behind a stack of crates. He was a young man, possibly in his early 20s. He had a narrow face and an unpleasant scowl. He simply stared at me. He didn't seem to be trying to hide. I was too shocked to move. He suddenly emerged from behind the boxes, clutching a knife. I hurriedly exited the room and entered the main area of the business. I used all of my strength to keep the door closed. I could feel him crash into the door, attempting to push it open. I was able to phone the cops with one hand while holding the door open. Fortunately, they came just minutes later and apprehended the man. When Andrew returned, I confronted him for leaving me alone. We work in teams for safety, not because it's too much work. I replied to him. He appeared regretful and apologized sincerely. I accepted his apologies and admitted that I was partly to blame for supporting his behavior. According to what I've heard, the intruder only received 6 months for breaking and entering. That's far too light, in my opinion, considering what he did. That knife screamed evil intentions. But I suppose he accepted a plea bargain or whatever. I'm not sure how all the legal stuff works. I stayed there for another year or 2 until I got another job that paid slightly more. If you work in retail, remember that there is safety in numbers. If you're fortunate enough to work in pairs, constantly look out for one another since you never know when you'll need it. I have been working the night shift at 7-Eleven for almost a month. It's not my dream job, but I'm grateful for the opportunity, especially given my background. I was only released from prison a few months before getting hired, so I consider myself extremely fortunate to have any employment at all. Without getting into too much detail, it's safe to say that I made some blunders. However, life is all about new beginnings. Also, I tell myself, I was the sole employee in the store, as is usual of the night shift at this location. There were usually only a few customers per hour. When there were no customers, I would clean and tidy the shelves while still having plenty of time to play on my phone. The store is in a tough neighborhood, and the salary is not good. However, one advantage of this site is that it boasts a cutting-edge security system, complete with multiple high-definition cameras strategically placed throughout the store. My supervisor installed them following a robbery that occurred before I was employed. I frequently stand behind the counter, watching the screen. It is a habit of mine. I can't stop staring at a screen. It doesn't matter what is on. Perhaps it's because I watched too much television as a child. I do not know. When a man walked into the store, I completely forgot about the screen. The automatic doors opened, revealing a tall, skinny guy wearing a flowing cloak. His gray skin looked papery, with deep fissures and creases. His face bore an unmistakable expression of misery. He stepped carefully through the door and approached the counter, where I stood in shock. "Hello, sir. How can I help you?" I replied, pretending he was a regular customer. He didn't say anything, just looked at me with bloodshot eyes. Strangely, the man appeared familiar, as if we had met previously, but I'm sure I'd recognized someone like this. This man resembled Death himself. We remained there in an eerie stalemate for several seconds, but it seemed like hours. He did not move. To relieve the anxiety, my gaze shifted to the screen displaying the surveillance footage. My heart fell when I realized the man wasn't there. I could picture myself standing at the counter, confronting an empty store. When I looked up, the man was still there, staring at me with an oddly familiar expression. His lifeless skin fell off his face, as if it were melting. I must be hallucinating, I reasoned. This can't be real. I closed my eyes hard and begged for him to vanish. When I opened my eyes, he was leaning forward, his hands firmly planted on the countertop. His glare was intense in a way I'd never seen before. He was peering into my soul, as if he could see everything about me. My anxieties, insecurities, past, present, and future. I could feel him sifting through my memories, replaying entire episodes from my life. Everything came to a halt when we got to my crime, a heist in which my getaway car hit and murdered an innocent person. Remorse invaded my body, and I started shaking. That's when I discovered why the man seemed so familiar. He was the pedestrian. Just suddenly, the figure vanished into thin air. I can only surmise as to why he decided to pay me a visit. Perhaps he was looking for closure or revenge. My guess is that he felt my regret and decided to show me kindness. I can never reverse what I've done. All I can do is try to go on,